Planty's talking a good amount about indicators here. To me, they're all noisy. My average trade is well over 1 hour. I'm not a swing trader.
Yeah, like I said, my initial instance is that is set up bearishly. I'm going to take a sell alongside, so we're in agreement, I think.
Honestly, the impulse is a buy here for me. We're going to retest it again, aren't we? But that's what I mean. No entry for me there, but that definitely would have been a trade I would have tried. I personally would be looking for a short somewhere down to 5,800 here. 100 if I could, right? Get some sort of lower high here and then continue down to 5,800. That's what I ideally would be looking for here.
Welcome back to the Alpha Futures YouTube channel. We've got the main man Ben here today with me. We're going to look at one or two setups in the market, see if we can have a little buy-sell challenge, show you a few ideas of how we'd instantly look at a chart and see how it plays out from there. So let's go with the first one. We've got a NASDAQ mini futures contract. Ben, anything that stands out to you?
I mean, it's obviously a full NQ contract, so I would say first thing is I'd be trading micros personally.
Yeah,
but
big time.
I mean, overall, just looking at the 15-minute here, I usually like using 1 hour and actually RTH. This is extended trading hours. You can see here, ETH in the bottom right. So I'm not sure if this is London session or what. But I'm usually trading New York hours, and I actually put my chart settings on RTH personally. But overall, in the 15-minute, I'm seeing lower highs and slightly lower lows. No crazy moves here, but I mean, first initial look on the 15-minute is we're in a lower high territory. Now, that obviously gives us two options in my head. Possible breakout to the upside through the lower high, right? It gets invalidated as a lower high. Or, right, this 15-minute print we're making right now holds this current wick, confirmed lower high, and we get a short for a lower low.
Okay, so that was an interesting one, Ben. And let's have a look at this one. We're now on to your favourite. You always introduce the E-mini futures.
So ES, I actually will trade full contracts ES, which most people are like, why? It's 50 points for one contract, right? But it's so much less volatile than NQ. So I only trade NQ micros, actually, but I will trade full ES contracts, which people are always kind of surprised to hear. But to be honest, a micro NQ is still more volatile, in my opinion, than a full ES contract.
Yeah.
So this is definitely something I will consistently trade, something I enjoy trading. Overall, looking at the hourly here, obviously a big move down on the left side of the screen, recovered that big move down, and have started to move back down again. So obviously coming into an hourly support level, I'd like to see lower time frames, how we print at the current lows. Opportunity for breakout through the lows, or obviously a hold of support would be the long I'm looking for. But on the hourly here, I'd be looking at this low we have on the left side of the screen for a reaction to get long, or I'd be looking for a lower high to short either through that low or into that low. I like to always be in the trade before we get to a breakout point, right. Try to hold through for the breakout. So I'd be looking for some sort of lower high before I actually get short here to try to hold into that low personally.
Yeah, that makes sense. That in my world, as you know, I like looking at waves, and as soon as I see something that's very impulsive, that says to me a third wave most of the time. Mm-hmm. So then I'm looking to see if we actually break to a new low afterwards, which suggests a kind of fifth wave, an ending pattern to whatever that move was. Then I'm automatically looking at the following action. Is that more of a three wave up, a counter trend move, consolidation, another counter trend move? And that hasn't continued. So that's kind of telling me that probably is, in this area here, an important high. Mm-hmm. Something that needs to be broken, pretty much like you saying, we're in a two-way pull here, because 5 followed by a 3 normally gets followed by another 5. So my primary concern here is that we're going to break down to newer lows. Yep. But again, up here, that would be my stop loss area would be that previous high up here. Again, I like to put on the trend channel just to see where that is working. I'll try not to break it this time. So we'll anticipate that is the top because it hasn't been broken, and we'll break through there. We'll just have this on as a...
Yeah, so like I personally be looking for short somewhere down to 5,800 here, personally. Like some sort of entry probably around 5,900 if I could, right? Get some sort of lower high here and then continue down to 5,800. That's what I ideally would be looking for here. But if we hold where you've got that line right there, that's where the long...
That's what we're looking at, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep. So if that support holds, that would be an indication to get long, which obviously we don't have that information right now. I don't love the entry where we're sitting currently. Like I said, my entry for short would be closer to 5,900 here. So I personally would not have an entry right here, but if you made me take an entry right now on this chart, it would be short.
So you're looking to hope somewhere mid-channel there to short it.
Exactly.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's where my entry would be more like mid-channel to try to hold back to bottom of channel and then catch the big win to 5,800. That's how my style works anyways. Again, try to be in before the breakout, and then if we get the breakout, awesome. If not, whatever. That's the whole point of managing risk and getting that stop loss to break even if the trade starts to go our way, of course.
No, exactly. So just to current moves, that move down 50%, that is in and around 59.50, and it's near the close of the channel. I'd have a definite sell towards the top of that channel, looking for breakout. As you said, it'd be considered a retest. This is very tight for going for a long here. I'd rather wait just to see whether we do break the support level before I take a long. It just seems too tight. Yeah, like I said, my initial instance is that is set up bearishly. I'm going to take a sell alongside. So we're in agreement, I think, that
all right.
The bias is to the sell side.
We'll see how we do. So this would be my entry area for sure, personally.
You're in there. We've hit.
Yep, stopped out.
Exactly.
So yeah, that would have been my entry and stops at the channel. Like we said, broke out of the channel upside. And we're going to retest it again, aren't we? But that's what I mean. No entry for me there, but that definitely would have been a trade I would have tried and gotten stopped out of before.
We've still not taken out this reference high yet, have we, within this move? So it is all, could still be an extended consolidation pattern. We've still got a lot of elements of 3. But,
yeah, so trying to make the move down again. Yeah,
we've broken that level.
Yeah, so here's the move to 5,800. This would have been the short I was looking for. That initial entry would have stopped me out. Probably got another chance again right at that 5,900 level, like we said. So probably would have went 1 for 2 here on a short personally. Stopped out on the first one, like we talked about, but that second one did give that exact move that I said. I wanted the 59 to 5,800 move. That second short would have been the one that, you know what I mean, would have made up for it, the loss, and that's part of trading, right? Is I have the trading idea. Tried it once, didn't work, was never invalidated at all, came back, would have had a second shot at it. So
that's what I was going to follow up with there. As we'd said in the setup, until that intermediate high is taken out, it's still valid. So you might be unlucky, you might get wicked out, you picked slightly the wrong levels.
Yep.
Don't give up on it until, and even if it's going right, double check, or all the principles still in place for that trade, as it is here. It created a second entry, didn't it?
Yep.
That's all about, don't fall down on yourself just because it fails the first time. The setup's right. It's just a little bit of wickage, one extra trade has pushed it through your level.
This is the trade I would have got stopped out of first time, guys. You can bring that down a little bit, yeah.
So it would have been around the channel.
Somewhere around there. Yep, and then if we try the same trade over here, you can see, guys, the idea was never invalidated. It just shows you timing is everything in trading. That would have been the trade I was looking for both times here. Timing is everything in trading, and this shows you, again, would have got stopped out the first time. That's part of trading. That happens. You guys could see, though, second time it did come around, and that's why it's so important. We obviously drew up risk-reward about a 3-to-1 on both attempts there. One stop out isn't going to kill me, especially when I make 3-to-1 trying the same trade a few hours later, right? That's how we remain profitable, right? 1 for 2, and we end with exactly like Planty said. We end in 2R positive. Timing is everything, though. That's the frustrating part of this game. Timing is everything, but yeah, the sells eventually did hit there. Would have got stopped out the first time, though, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, an interesting thing there, like I said, don't give up on the trade. That doesn't mean I've lost, revenge trade. It's no, go back, look at it. Do those same fundamentals still sit in place? Nothing's changed. The TA's not really changed yet because we haven't changed structure, have we? So, yep, good one. We lost, but won in the end.
Yeah, timing's everything.
Right, we've got the YM 15-minute set up there, the Dow Jones Big Boy E-mini contract.
But if you guys didn't know, this is a futures chart, right? A lot of people are used to seeing RTH gaps, which is just New York hours. If you trade ETFs and stuff, it's what you're used to seeing. Futures gaps, however, like we have right here, are more rare, but they actually fill at a higher rate. So you guys can see, like market makers, or, I doubt it was retail at these hours. Market makers did come back and fill that ETH gap. That is a high probability setup. Like this long actually would have been what I've taken, what we've seen so far here. But that gap fill, right, that's just a high probability move. Not overly surprising there. So that's just what I see initially on the 15-minute. That's just a nice thing. Guys, if you don't pay attention to futures gaps, you should. That's all I'm getting at here.
And when you talk about gaps, normally a gap fill signals a potential pivot. So you're looking for it to reverse then or break out?
I actually just like using it for price targets personally.
A zone to retarget.
Yep, exactly. Like looking at this here, right? Nice little double bottom, and then you could even say a slightly higher low here.
Yeah.
So either that double bottom would have been an entry for me on the 15, or if I was like, this is a tough entry, in my opinion, that somebody caught it, clearly, with those prints. That's a pretty tough entry, but then it would have been entry with take profit somewhere up here at the gap fill. So that's how I approach them, is strictly as a take profit level, personally.
That's really interesting, because we've got a lot of wicking here and holding. This is what they call nesting in waves, because you're looking for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but you get waves within waves. So you had a 1 and a 3-wave consolidation. You've gone again and you consolidated within that first wave. That's a 1, 2, 1, 2. That's very powerful. You're expecting a big breakout then. So that, in my world, if I'd have been sat next to you, we'd have been talking, saying we're expecting an impulsive breakout on the next one.
Yeah.
And that's obviously targeted that gap as well.
So can we go to the hourly real quick, just so I can get a better look here? And then if it doesn't tell us anything, we can come back to the 15. So hourly's honestly looking a little pretty bearish here, right? We do have, again, a nice double bottom on the hourly, trying to build some sort of base here. Look, overall, it would probably be a short setup on the hourly, staying with trend. I do think the 15-minute was actually showing us a little bit of bullishness there, though. Not a trade setup I love, to be honest, because I feel like I would be fighting the trend. But my impulse decision here, based on the nice little double bottom and this big hourly wick we just made, honestly, the impulse is a buy here for me, even though I am fighting the trend. So most likely a trade I don't take, if we're being honest, but my gut's telling me buy based on that hourly wick and the 15-minute print we got there. If we go back to the 15-minute, I can kind of explain more why the impulse decision would be buy for me. Which, again, not a trade I love, guys. Not a trade you'll see me take often. Reason why I do actually, I'm okay with the buy here again, is the double bottom into the higher low. Good move up. You can still see on the 15-minute here, though, right? We just made this impulsive shoot up, filled the gap, right? Have started to give some of this back. But notice we're still holding a higher low on the 15-minute with, again, very strong bar. So as long as this higher low is held, that's actually where my stop loss would be. So I do think the risk reward's actually really strong here.
Yeah, it's a tight one,
for a
isn't it?
long. Yeah, it would be. Again, not a trade you guys are probably going to see me take, but something like this, I think this risk reward is way too much to ignore, because I would go so tight to actually using this low as my stop loss. So again, probably not a trade you guys see me consistently take, but this is actually the setup I'd be willing to take here. If, again,
okay, so it's not an A setup, but it's
there's an opportunity, but not an A setup.
And you'd probably go low stakes on something like that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, not a trade you guys will see me take, it being 100% transparent, but just based on the 15-minute. And again, the challenge here is chart, make a decision. Honestly, the impulse decision would be long for me there with that stop at the 15-minute wick. Okay, interesting. So I'll come to this. I'd want to put, because we've got, as you said, a bearish setup, I'd want to just have a feel for what the momentum looks like, because it has been negative. So I'd put in, I'd always have MACD on my chart. A lot of times you get changes when there's divergence in new highs versus lows in the momentum. But if you're in an actual sell-off period, you want to see a sequential lows in the dips. So we've got quite a momentum low there into that dip. And here at the low, you've got another one. So you would expect some form of rally, which we've got. I'm also then looking at that and thinking, again, wave theory, you've had a low which is consolidated, and then we've had a more impulsive one. And we haven't broken it yet, but we've only had 3 waves down. So my first feel, and particularly, is that gap fill was on a big wick. Didn't really have much of a candle to that. To get the 5 waves down that I'm always looking for, and to have a final low, I want to see a new low, and I want to see a higher momentum here as we follow through, and then that'll confirm to me that we're then going to have a reversal and go to the upside. Nice.
So my first instinct, I'm going to put on a short-term sell against you.
Yep.
Looking for that to probably come down to potentially 36, 35 region before we reverse.
So ideally for you, right, on the entry short, because, again, for me here, it would have been, if I was fortunate enough to be paying attention, I agree, this hourly wick would have been my entry for short. Are you still happy with a short entry here, or is that an A+ setup to you, short entry here, or what would you be looking for?
I'm looking to probably reject another test of that gap fill.
Sure.
So I would have my stop loss just a little bit higher than that, just to give it a little bit of trading tone.
Because for me, the hourly level I'd be looking to short, I would actually just be the major psychological level right at 40,000, which you can see we almost tapped up into there. Yeah. That's also why for me it's look, not a long, I genuinely don't think I would take this trade, guys, but again, the 15-minute impulse challenge here, what are you going to do? I'm willing to say, let's go ahead, impulse the buy. We have it drawn up there with a tight stop, and we'll see if Planty gets a nice win on the short, though. So there you go. Actually, would have initially moved up. Stop would be at break even for me here on that initial pop.
I'm probably just stopped out there. Watch it drop now. So a lot of sideways action. That's a horrible trade to sit through, isn't it? Japers.
So we would have just given a pretty good test up of the 40,000 level. I would have been out of the long at this point again. Realizing I'm fighting the trend, guys, on the hourly like we talked about. Like, look, Planty setup's starting to come back now. If he would have gotten short, we'll talk about where your entry would have been too, Planty. But you guys can see I'm willing to take it there on the 15-minute, expecting that low to be protected. You can see it was. But reason why I'm saying I would have been out by now, I still was fighting the trend on the hourly chart like we originally opened this up.
Yeah, look, I mean,
there's that
for me,
level.
I'm not, there's no way I'm backfilling a win because it wouldn't be the case.
Right.
I'm concerned about that zone because what I initially talked about, there's nesting within the short time frame. We expect we got an impulse out. You'll then have a consolidation and then you possibly go again. So I'm very scared of a big breakout. I would have only had a tightest short against that gap fill retest. So I wouldn't have made any money out of that.
And just what we talked about here, I guess I'm going to remove that. Like I said, for me, it's all key levels for me, whether it be psychological or something I have on the hourly, again, that 40,000 level. So I genuinely think I would have been out at any sort of bearish showing here. I'm very happy with the risk reward here like we originally talked about on the 15-minute. Again, the reason why I'm okay with getting long there was this 15-minute print here. We can see extremely strong, right? And I know I have somewhat of a higher low here. If this higher low gets invalidated, that's when the long against the trend, again, I can't emphasize that enough, guys. This was against the trend on the 1 hour chart. That should be an indication for you. See profit, take profit when you're moving against the trend, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So again,
that's one of the most frustrating things in trading is suddenly falling in love with a win.
An anti-trend move, especially. So this one, guys, again, 40,000 level would have been kind of what I'm trying to play towards, but would have been out at any sort of rejection move because I would expect the trend on the hourly to continue. And you can see there actually was a decent short here for. Again, Planty, we can talk about where your entry would have been. Like you said, this was
I'd have been taken back out
here.
again. But again, the fundamental was not taking out the actual structure. Again, we've stayed around that wick level, haven't we? Now, what is interesting is, again, it's always useful to have your breakdown level in, isn't it? Which is the ultimate low horizontal line in there, so we know what's happening. We haven't broken that. Remember, we talked about this being some nesting. This has ended up being one more high. We've consolidated again and we've broken out again. That is still probably a consolidation pattern, just going wider relative to the whole thing, which is why when I'm setting that up, I'm looking for what kind of retracement level that is. If this whole move down was a 1, then that fib could be a 61.80 and we still go down. As you said, the trend remains bearish.
I'm actually interested to know what happened at 40,000 now. So I mean, the long would have hit for me there, guys. Again, it's a high risk, high reward. I mean, that's a 10-hour trade we have marked up there. But that's the reality of going against trends sometimes, is it is a very high risk reward opportunity. I'm telling you guys, like I said, I don't really know if this is generally a trade I would normally take because it looks like it also was outside of regular trading hours also. But we have to understand when we move against the trend like I just did there, it is very high risk reward. What does that mean with higher risk reward trades? It's going to be lower hit rate. While, yes, this did hit for me here right now, guys, that's not going to happen every time. I promise it's not going to. I'm actually curious to see what happened now because now that we did make that move up to 40,000, like I talked about, this is when I would start to be like, okay, do I get a short opportunity to come back through the lows like you were originally looking for? But I would have been waiting for this 40,000 retest that we just got.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a kind of no trade range at the moment because it's all about how we perform up here. There's no divergence yet on the rise up. So that there is still momentum potentially left around. This could easily, like I say, sequential highs within a consolidation pattern. You feel like it's going to reverse. If we're looking for the end of a bullish move, that hasn't got any signal from the momentum at the moment. So it's kind of noisy. There's nothing clear to me yet from my setup, so I wouldn't play at the moment.
Yep, and that's even, I think you guys have probably started to notice, like Planty's talking a good amount about indicators here. To me, they're all noisy. Genuinely, that's why they just don't click with me. You guys saw me. I picked a 15-minute low, and I'm sure Planty was like, that's it? When I just said, well, that 15-minute low will get me long. Yeah. I'm sure you were like, that's it? Really? That's generally how my trading style is, though.
But that's, and that's good if you like risk managing as well. Sometimes you're better actually getting into the price action and feeling it and see what's going on. There's no one way of doing it.
As long as I have a stop loss set, I'm pretty much willing to take any trade, right? Like I said, this probably isn't one that I'm looking for, guys, it being extended trading hours, not regular trading hours, fighting against the trend. But for the point of this challenge, it was go long or go short. I said from those 15-minute lows, my impulse was to go long. It obviously would have hit there. But yeah, like I said at the beginning of this, I was like, I'll be honest, guys, probably a trade I missed, even though it did hit for 10-1 here.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'd be super low stakes on that, because it's literally mid-range of the two things that I look for. So, you know, it's kind of a no trade zone.
1 hour chart, obviously have made, it looks like a little bit of a, I know you love your parallel channels, a little bit of a downtrend channel, right, moving back towards the top of it. So either looking for some sort of rounding pattern, some sort of lower high to still hold. Otherwise, we're looking at, breakout to the upside, because that's a good amount of strength on the hourly. So, the current hourly print's very strong. I wouldn't be looking to short into that until we get some sort of wick. But we're in lower high territory. Definitely in lower high territory.
Yeah, it's a chart. Let's put them on, just as we talked about. Good discipline. Let's have the current high. You'd expect you need to test this preliminary high, which is a consolidation one, as well as the actual all-time high. And you say at the moment, I'm looking at that, it is a downtrend, and we've got lots of elements of 5 subwaves down with 3 counter trends. So if that, to me, automatically I'm thinking, yeah, we're in a downtrend. We're probably going to fail with a test up here. Again, I always have MACD on, because I want to know if there's any divergence. This is a tricky one for anyone, because you've got an actual high within this pattern here, which we've sort of hit equal. So you're kind of thinking, jeepers, there is no obvious sign that there's a difference in divergence, but it does very much look like, at the moment, that classic pattern of sequential highs and sequential highs on the price action. That's more like a consolidation pattern. Mm-hmm. I would still think that there is continued downside in this pattern. I'm not expecting that to break out to upside. So I would be, the blue line would be my stop loss, maybe just above, just in case, for wicks. Looking for a breakdown of this channel.
I don't love this 1 hour candle being our entry candle, to be honest, because ideally here, right, we just made higher low on the 1 hour. So if somebody were to get long, they'd probably be working off of this higher low somehow to move back to top of range. We're so close to top of range right now that Planty has drawn up here. I don't like this entry candle, like I said, because it's so strong. For a short, I don't really like that entry candle. I'd want to see us come up, test this area Planty's talking about, give me some sort of 1 hour, selling wick. Same thing on the 15-minute and 5-minute is usually what I'm looking for. So I actually really don't like this 1 hour candle as an entry at all. But I will agree with Planty that I'd be looking for a short up in this area if it starts to look for what we both just talked about, is selling wick.
If we get reversion off that and we get a lower momentum here, that very much is an exhaustion point. So that is why I'd have that on for the next few hours, keeping a
and I
sharp
guess
eye on that.
What I will say is, for, again, most of our day traders out there, what I guess based on this 1 hour print you could be looking for would be something like this, but like this risk reward is all shot. That's why I'm saying I don't like this as an entry point, because like this risk reward has already been eaten up. If you wanted longs back to top of range, like I originally said, you should have been working off of this higher low down here, something like this, right?
Yeah, because again, that's kind of a confirmation held zone, isn't it?
So I guess I'll say, because I feel like the risk reward is honestly gone here on the longs, I would be patiently looking for a short off of the 21,750-ish area here. So I'm going to say sell, but not at this entry. We're about 200 points. Too low for me to work off of anything yet. But I guess I would say, look, if I'm a day trader, I'm okay looking long up to 21,750. If you're somebody that's trading for hours, a lot of our traders' average hold time is only like 15 minutes. There's probably a long up to 21,750. Now, if you're somebody like myself, my average trade is well over 1 hour. I'm not a swing trader, but I do try to catch as big of a move as possible when it comes to a full day of trading. I'd be looking for the short off of 21,750. So I'm gonna say short term, long up to 21,750. 750 is where I'd get short. Cool. I know that's kind of a cop out both, but that's generally what I'm seeing on the hourly here.
What does the 15 look like?
Yeah, 15.
A lot of sideways action.
Yep. And then good amount of just right. Like this is too strong at the moment for me to short into on the 15. So again, you get me to the 21,750 level, I will short there with some sort of wick, but here I have no entry.
So again, like I said, I'm nervous. We've had a peak, which is the third wave peak within what should be 5 here. We've got a new higher high with much lower momentum. That's kind of suggesting you're close to the end of the move up. Should be looking for a failure probably around here, a little bit more finishing off momentum that just dies.
So yeah,
yeah,
I guess let's see where it carries up to. Let's see. 21,750, guys, is where I'd be looking short. Not before then, personally. So let's see if we get there.
There's a real two-way pull in the market here, isn't there? Right, look at
So
that momentum. It's one of those classics, isn't it?
Yep. So I wouldn't have gotten my short entry, guys. And I mean, the shorts were the correct answer there. It looks like for short term. Like I said, I wouldn't have caught an entry here at all.
But still, it's an exgending consolidation pattern.
Yeah, there wasn't much there, exciting wise.
Yeah, momentum really died, and we haven't had breakthrough. So
there we go.
So from my point of view, I'd have had a 1 lot, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 5 with that stop loss that I'd be looking to add to if we got any breakdown, but we haven't had any breakdown.
I know this is still kind of boring. We're getting close to that 21,700.
Yeah.
21,750. We're still just below it, guys.
But again, you've got to keep your eye on how your momentum's playing out. We're rallying, but it's still not gone to a new high.
So here's where I'm looking short. We just made that high. There we go.
Yeah.
So let's see if we get the full move. This is I would be short at this point, guys, with stops at the current highs. Let's see if I would have got the move or got stopped out. I know that took a while to develop.
You're getting sweaty.
Yeah.
This is the problem when you get the wick and it's like, oh, for God's sake, what's going on?
Still defending the highs. I mean, this is already.
This feels like there's a
too long. Yeah,
there's a program sell in the market at that level, isn't there? Really.
Yep. So that would have just taken me out. I mean, we're now days later. I know the challenge was like make an impulse right now on this decision. We are now days later, so I wouldn't be in the trade.
I think on that basis we'll just kill it because So let's just see if we get a breakout of the delta because I'm close to I'm out now.
So I mean that took days to develop, guys. My initial reaction of no trade on the day, right? For me and my style, that's all that would have happened there. There was no trade. Now days later, I would have hoped I could have caught a short somewhere around here and caught some of that move. Again, probably get stopped out for an underwhelming win. Same thing attempted over here, trying off that 21,750 level, underwhelming win, and then we never really broke out. But yeah, Planty's right. This is when I completely give up on the shorts.
So
that idea is shot.
I have in the back of my mind from a swing perspective. This is only a 15-minute chart, but we're at new highs, new all-time highs for the chart here, and yet the momentum is still hasn't broken out. What's the hour?
So from a swing standpoint, that I guess you're right.
I'm still looking at it for re-entry kind of thing. So, and again on the hourly, which is what I started off with, that's still a lower high for an all-time high. This is the divergence you're kind of looking for to set up a swing trade.
Got it. Yeah, because for me it would have been an underwhelming win short, win short, give up on the trade. That's for me what it would have been there.
That's a week where I'm sure you'll have all jumped onto gold or something else because you'd have been bored to death playing that. Sometimes the markets just aren't in play, or there's it's just against the technical.
21,750 did give 2 little short opportunities there, guys, but nothing.
But you just got to put it down to experience there. You did it. You were sensible. You were tightly stopped. So that's another session of the buy sell. Hope there was some interesting and helpful hints for you there from a couple of different styles of looking at setups. And please join us again. Vote likes below and leave comments, and we'll get back to you.